Hello, and welcome to the Herald's Horn, episode 29. On this episode, Dan and I are, well, you know what we're talking about. We're going to talk about the modern overhaul. We're going to talk about the legacy bands a bit. And we are also going to talk a tiny little bit about Pioneer. Of course, you know, it's a whole band BNR extravaganza. That's the news of the week. We also talk about Arena Championship 7, just a little tiny bit. But it's a little bit of a shorter episode this week. You know, we're moving towards the holidays. We're practically, we've been in the holidays for weeks now. So a little bit of a slower time, but it's still a fun conversation. After the break, I am joined by Maddy, or Clover Alters, from the Spike Feeders. We talk about kind of how she got into altering, how she has continued to diversify all of her offerings as a self-employed person, how she got into the Spike Feeders, and more. It's a great conversation. I know you'll love it. I just wanted to say really quick, as usual, if you enjoy the show and enjoy what we do here, consider tossing us a couple bucks over on Patreon. You cannot imagine how much it helps, especially since right now, this is kind of what I'm doing. So if you like the show, go ahead and check it out. It's in the podcast description. Thank you, everyone. Let's get right into the show. Hello, it's time for the Herald's Horn, part of the One Shot Network. My name is Cal Jones, and today I am joined by the wonderful Dan. Say hello, Dan.
Hi, Emma.
I heard you were up until 4 a.m. watching videos about the GameCube to prepare for this episode.
Yes, I was.
You think you're ready?
I do feel ready, yeah. So the GameCube came out in 1962 and went to the moon in 1969.
But read the theme song. And welcome back. It is time for us to do the news. First of all, though, I have a little correction to make. From time to time here on the show, we like to talk about constructed formats. Sometimes we do that a bit better than others. I'm not a real constructed format head. I keep up with them, but I keep up with them in that, like, I listen to some podcasts and I look at twitter.com and I look at MTG Goldfish sometimes. And when we were discussing what we thought would be upcoming bands, I proudly declared all this stuff about how I thought Vexing Bobble would be restricted in Vintage because of a resurgence of Mystic Forge decks that happened over the course of Eternal Weekend. Shocker. Vexing Bobble is already restricted in Vintage and has been for a relatively long time relative to how long it's been released. All of the stuff I said about Vintage applied directly to Legacy. That's my bad. I didn't do the research I needed to do. I was kind of talking off the dome, yapping a little bit outside of my comfort zone. I'm going to do a bit more work on the constructed end of things. Moving forward, that's on me. And
I'm
Dan
embarrassed
will
that I
do
didn't
better
say
to catch
anything.
me next time.
Yeah, I know. I knew. And I don't know. I guess I just ignored you saying that.
You're just like, ooh, I could be playing GameCube right now, but instead I'm in
I was literally thinking about how
recording.
the GameCube landed on the moon in 1969.
All right, so speaking of ban and restriction stuff, obviously that's the main topic we have to talk about today. And wow, what a ban and restricted announcement it was for a ton of different formats. We also learned a little something extra. People had been wondering whether or not Commander stuff was going to be rolled up into this new BNR structure. Not new BNR structure, we've had it for a while now, but if Commander was going to be rolled up into the constructed BNR stuff, and it looks like quite similarly to Pauper, which I believe also does not one-to-one follow the update schedule that Wizards follows for its other formats. Commander did not get an update yesterday, so cool, neat. But what about the stuff we did see? Pioneer, Giganta, the Wellspring banned. That kind of shocked me, but because we were just saying last episode, who's thinking about Pioneer right now? Who's playing Pioneer right now? It's a little bit out of the limelight at this time, but basically they just saw that Giganta was being played in a ton of the decks, and it's basically too good to not play, so goodbye. Fair.
Yep, great reason. I was going to say, here at the Herald Tour, we do not pay attention to Pioneer historically. But
Is it the upcoming Pro Tour? Yeah, I'll be clocking in.
But yeah, greatest reason as any to ban a card.
I think this is like, at long last, we're starting to see the true, like, reaching implications of how outrageously strong of a mechanic that companion actually is. If one can, like they said, the need of having non-matching mana costs, like you can't have two of the same mana in a cost. That's the thing for Giganta. It's not that interesting of a cost, and apparently it's not that hard of a cost to meet, but it is a cost. You do have to make some deck building considerations to get it done for some decks. And the fact that so many decks thought that having access to basically a 5/5 for 5, really a 5/5 for 8, if you have to think about the 3 mana to put it into your hand first and then play it later on. 8 split across 2 turns. Or not. So many decks found it worth their while to go out of their way to put a vanilla 5/5 into their command zone, pretty much. Like, I think that just speaks to how outrageously insane this mechanic has always been.
Yeah, I was going to say, in regards to you initially saying how powerful it is and like seeing the repercussions of it, like this is even after we have errated this to cost an extra 3 mana.
Correct.
So like, imagining the extra 3 generic cost.
Significantly worse of a mechanic than it used to be.
Yeah, but still, an 8 mana 5/5 is good enough to just have around.
Sure. I mean, yeah, it's an extra free card that you're always going to have access to in your hand. And I guess there's also the very small downside if you get one less card in your sideboard, because it technically lives in your sideboard. But,
that is true.
But that it's crazy to me that is just that good. And we'll talk more about Giganta a little bit more a little later on. But rest in peace, Jeggy. No longer present in Pioneer.
Rest in piss, as far as I'm concerned.
Moving on to Legacy, the format that we obviously discussed the most last episode when approaching this BNR. This was the one I was most interested to see what they could do, because it did feel to me as if Wizards kind of had like 2 options. I don't think no bans was really ever an option, because it's so obvious that Psychic Frog was so good. And then like that was the bare minimum option. They kind of had the really safe option, which it seems like they've taken. Psychic Frog banned, Vexing Bauble banned. Vexing Bauble just completely turns off the safety valve of the format in Force of Will. And if it's getting in your own way, you can cash it in for a card. Card is just kind of egregious. Psychic Frog instantly became like the best threat in a format that has for so long rotated around like 1 and 2 mana threats supported by extremely powerful spells. It's not much better you get than Psychic Frog, especially within the Reanimator shell. Happy to see Legacy fixed up a little bit.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that it's a really compounding issue with the Legacy ban list, in that Wizards dragged their feet for so long on banning Grief that it really like we've gotten past the point of like Orcish Bowmaster being a big problem, which is a great thing, because like the metas do inevitably smooth themselves out to some extent or another. But obviously, like you said, there is a lot more work that needs to be done here. I've heard a lot of people discuss this as being a very like bare minimum of what they want done to the format. There are still a lot of problems with the Reanimator deck. People are talking about banning Entomb or Reanimate as a possible solution to that. People are still pretty concerned about how good the Eldrazi decks are. So yeah, there's a lot to be done, and it seems like there's always a lot riding on these bans, because Legacy is so community driven rather than driven by WotC in and of themselves, that any like really bad, I think, BNR announcement has such a detrimental effect on the amount that people want to play Legacy. It can really make or break the community at any certain time with how good or bad the meta is and how WotC chooses to respond to that.
Yes, definitely. I think that's the thing that is the biggest concern to me, and that pretty much mirrors the concern of the Eternal Glory guys, the Eternal Glory podcast. If you're trying to keep your finger on the pulse of a lot of Eternal formats, but most specifically Legacy, I would recommend listening to the Eternal Glory podcast. I listened to their, like first takes of the ban announcement episode that they came out with this morning before we were recording this, and they pretty much were saying a lot of what you just said, Dan. On the episode before that, after Eternal Weekend, Koval kind of laid out a list of cards that he would like to see banned, and it was like Psychic Frog and Vexing Bauble and one of these 3 cards out of the Eldrazi deck, and either Entomb or Reanimate. Just like this is, Psychic Frog and Vexing Bauble are the very obvious problems in the format. However, there's just like this second order of effects from banning them. So like the Eldrazi deck was doing really good until Eternal Weekend. Maybe that stumble in performance is real, maybe it's fake. But now the Eldrazi deck is maybe just the best deck in the format. Maybe it's not. Maybe blue black Reanimator is still the best deck in the format, even though it's losing a premium threat. There's plenty of other Magic cards out there in the world, and the plan of entombing in Atraxa or a swamp cycling a Troll of Khazad Dûm and then reanimating it is still something that is going to win a lot of legacy games, right? So knowing I just admitted it at the top of the show, I know less about this stuff than I could or should. The intuition of the Eternal Glory guy saying that like they wish they did go farther, especially because our next BNR isn't until March. There's a very real world where we immediately find out that these bannings are a little bit too little, they are too late. Psychic Frog probably should have been banned in the last round, but too little, too late, and now there's a very valid concern that the Eldrazi deck or still the Reanimator deck or both or whatever are just going to terrorize everything else until next March when Wizards has another chance to mess up the format. Not mess up the format, fix up the format.
Yeah. The stage was really set here, I think, to make some big changes for the format, and I think that the community was very ready for those changes to happen. So, yeah, just a little unfortunate to see, again, real bare minimum amount of bannings to try to change things up a little bit, but hopefully it does lessen the death grip of Reanimator on the format, and hopefully people will figure out a way to take care of Eldrazi in the interim.
Definitely. Well, those are kind of like the backdrop, I would say. I was most interested in Legacy going into the BNR announcement, and I definitely came out of the announcement yesterday most interested in Modern.
Me too.
Because, boy, what a shakeup. I'll run down the list really quick. One Ring banned, predicted. Amped Raptor banned. Gigantha banned. Poor Gigantha, really being set out to pasture. Cool. What a nice shakeup of the format. Of these cards that were all really good, all got banned. I mean, what else could we do? What else could be done? What else could be done, Dan?
Well, we could do something real crazy, Cal. We could unban a bunch of really cool stuff.
Oh, like what?
Well, we could unban Mox Opal, Green Sun Zenith, Faithless Looting, and Splinter Twin.
Can I get a based in chat?
Based.
Mox Opal, holy moly, that's scary. But Green Sun Zenith, well, that's also scary. But Faithless Looting, Splinter Twin, love to see these very cool cards come back into the format. These cards, well, Green Sun Zenith, but like Splinter Twin, Faithless Looting, Mox Opal, these are all iconic Modern cards to me. Like when I played Modern in, 2013, 2014, 2015, up until, Splinter Twin was banned right around then. And then Mox Opal not that long after. But
yeah, I want to say 2016.
Faithless Looting not that long after. But all of these cards are cards that, I don't know, they're all extremely strong. Splinter Twin is an A plus B combo that half of it can be, done at instant speed. Faithless Looting is a real enabler card. Maybe not, not the most exciting payoff or anything. Mox Opal, holy moly, that's done a lot of work over the course of the format. But Green Sun Zenith is basically a card that we have not barely gotten to see in Modern for a very long time.
No, I was going to say, like, you and I played Modern around the same time, and even if it was, like, before the Splinter Twin, or after the Splinter Twin banning, rather, like, the memes of Splinter Twin being banned is such a staple of Modern at the time that it's, like, it's still, like, a specter of the format in the way that Green Sun Zenith is not. I'm very excited to see what Green Sun Zenith can do for the format. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty unfamiliar with the Modern metagame at the moment, so I'm not quite sure where it fits in, if there's, like, a good Elves deck or something like that. Well, but this has legitimately excited me to get back into Modern in the
Primeval Titan is pretty much
years.
Always a playable deck, and Green Sun Zenith strikes me as very playable in a Primeval Titan deck, personally.
But wait, they would have to make a lot of mana to do that, though.
Can we think of any deck like Primetime? Can we think of how Primetime would make a lot of mana?
No, I can't. I don't know anything about the modern meta.
I found the original ban. Okay, so yeah, September 2011, BNR, Eric Lauer. Blazing Shoal, Cloud Post, Green Sun Zenith, Ponder, Preordain, and Rite of Flame. Banned after Pro Tour Philadelphia, which I believe was like the crazy Pro Tour where they kind of just let Modern go wild. Don't quote me on that, but I do believe that is the case. So it's more or less been banned from kind of day one. On turn one, this can give the acceleration of a Llanowar Elves by getting a Dryad Arbor. On later turns, it can get a large creature or a one of toolbox creature such as Gaddock Teague. While this is interesting, it is also too efficient. If one intends to build a deck that has turn one accelerants, Green Sun Zenith is a great choice. If one wants to more access to utility green creatures, Green Sun Zenith is a great choice. If one wants to more reliably get a large green creature, such as Primeval Titan, onto the battlefield, Green Sun Zenith is a great choice. However, this ends up with fewer different decks being played in practice, as Green Sun Zenith is such a good choice that there are fewer green decks that do anything else. The DCI hopes that banning Green Sun Zenith increases diversity against among modern green decks. So I guess this unban hopes that Green Sun Zenith brings back any green modern deck.
I was really thinking that the entire time was, wow, what a time when green was so strong that they were like, nah, we cannot have you tutoring up that Dryad Arbor.
But to answer your bit of a question, Primeval Titan, that deck, that the Primetime decks make a lot of mana very fast, and I would imagine that they would enjoy also just being able to play it just for kind of the sake of, going, put your Arboreal Grazer into play. I'm sure the deck could, without knowing much about what the current lists kind of care about, I'm sure they would, they would gladly perhaps play a one of Dryad Arbor just to get that mana on turn one. Yeah,
I mean, that's
all the
real
classic
problem.
Green Sun Zenith stuff.
That is the real problem with this card and why it is so dangerous, is that it doesn't really go away, and it is like, obviously it's very versatile, but the fact that it just shuffles back in your library, you basically have infinite copies of it. You don't really need to worry about like wasting a copy on Dryad Arbor or Arboreal Grazer or anything else like that. It really is interesting. But yeah, the amulet decks, they can make like 6 or 7 mana as quickly as turn 2, right? With a good draw, I think. You get pretty an much. Amulet and a couple like Simic Growth Chambers. Yeah, it seems like it would slot into that deck pretty well. I don't know if that's like a 4 of, but seems quite strong.
Yep. So, to the bans themselves, One Ring, pretty obvious. Amped Raptor, it seemed like Boros needed another kind of chop down as the far and away best deck of the format, and then also Gigantha banned. Apparently Gigantha was in 40% of modern decks. That's kind of wild. I was kind of unaware of that as well,
but in metas without Force of Will, etc., they have like access to Force of Negation and Force of Vigor and stuff like that, but like those are not particularly popular cards in the meta a lot of the time. Seems, again, like a really easy place to just stick your 5/5 for 8 mana.
Yep, exactly. And then Amped Raptor is the choice for nerfing Boros Energy. I was watching the stream today, daily MTG stream, where they came on and talked about the BNR in a little bit. And Carmen, good old Carmen, Clemperens, said they took a look at a lot of the different, like what they kind of saw as like the key cards for Boros Energy. So they had like 6 or 7 cards up on the whiteboard, and they pretty much just like ended up on Amped Raptor because it was still really strong. It's both an energy like enabler and payoff, because it can just give you energy and you don't have to do anything with it, or you can use a ton of your energy to cast something really big for like free, quote unquote. It kind of draws you a card, all that kind of stuff adds up to a very powerful card. But they didn't want to like completely ban one of the deck's best cards because they were worried about over nerfing it. Because, a lot of people have invested in it. It's still kind of a cool deck. They would like people to be able to still be able to play it. That's a consistent theme in many of the BNR decisions and when they talk about it. However, if we look at it, Boros Energy still basically got all 3 of these bans. Like the One Ring was a 4 of in Boros Energy, and it could be argued that Boros Energy was the deck that like maybe used it the best. Amp Raptor obviously was a very good card in it, and then a lot of Boros Energy decks also just gladly and basically freely were able to play Giganta as well. So it'll be interesting to see how Modern shakes out. I have seen so many people already messing around with like crazy Faithless Looting, Deep Analysis, Tameo decks on MitGo, and I'm like, wow, is that a legacy deck? Wait, no, that's Modern. No, oh man.
Yeah, that was my immediate thought, as well as Modern Horizons 2 brought in a lot of older spells that are quite interesting to play in the modern meta. And yeah, hopefully this breathes some new life into being able to do it. I think, it must have been AnziD, Anurag Das posting earlier today, realizing that Modern is going to be the first format where, Mox Opal and Underworld Breach are legal in the same format at the same time.
No.
I know, that's kind of fun, right? Get your grinding stations ready.
Grinding station away one, play your other one. Oh yeah. Okay, I'm ready.
That's a CEDH deck.
I'll be there. I exactly, like that's just when you can play more than one of them. Mox Opal does a really good Lotus Petal and or LED impersonation as far as those loops go. Gross.
Yeah, as far as Amped Raptor goes, it was something I would not have anticipated, but thinking about it, it makes plenty of sense. It is like just a 2-mana Bloodbraid elf, and hopefully between that and the One Ring, that is enough of like, that's so much card advantage for a Boros deck to have. It's like, it's very easy to understand why that deck can run away, just never having an ending to the amount of card advantage or damage that it can put forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I hope that Splinter Twin's playable. Actually, of all of the things that come out of this, I just hope that somehow people can find a way to make Splinter Twin work. I think it's probably been left in the past a little bit at this point, but
I think it's one of those things where it'll either be unplayable or it'll be the best deck.
Or just like sneakily the best deck, just kind of chilling.
All right, so wait, here's my question to you. Which one of these cards is going to get banned again?
I think if I had to choose, the answer is Mox Opal.
That was my thought as well.
They called out the fact that like, oh yeah, we've printed Meltdown. Okay, cool.
That's true.
Kappa Cannoneer is a card that you guys put in Modern Horizons 3, so...
Yeah, the thing about Mox Opal is you can just keep casting them for free. It doesn't really matter if they get melted down. I kind of think that all 4 of these might get banned again in a certain world because they're all so powerful. I mean, Splinter Twin is the one that's more iffy.
Splinter Twin is the one that feels like a little iffy to me, but it also does feel like one of those cards that if you can build the right shell around it, it still will just be like good enough to win. I did also see though, we have a lot more like free and easy to use solutions versus Splinter Twin than we used to. It's like, okay, end of your turn, I'm going to flash in my Pestermite, and then your opponent's like, yeah, Solitude. Oh, cool.
And also, we got to think that this is pre-Fatal Push as well by a lot of years when Splinter Twin gets banned. So there's certainly a lot more technology than there used to be.
Yep. And another thing is just like when Splinter Twin was a deck, there was just games where, you know, the games slowed down to a slog enough where like flash in Pestermite, end of your turn, tap down your land, go to my turn, attack you with 2 Pestermites was like ways that people on Twin were winning games. I don't think that wins games of Modern anymore. Like I don't think so. I can't imagine.
Yeah, it is a very different landscape.
All right, so I think that's all I have to say about the bans.
Yeah, that was all the formats, huh? I guess we did it.
That was all the formats. I think there's like a if you're interested in Pauper, much like Emma said last week, the Pauper committee did put out a video on Good Morning Magic. Talking about the state of the format slightly, but also mainly saying, hey, here are some great ways that you can talk to us about how you feel about the format and the way that things are right now. We have a lot of data. We can see some stuff that people are saying. Tell us more. Thanks. So neat. And then we are still awaiting kind of like the second word from the new commander team. We kind of got here's the new commander team. You'll hear from us more in the new year type of thing. So looking forward to that. So that's every type of format. It is definitely interesting to me that Wizards kind of like split the difference. I feel like so often they have, so often we have seen like whole sweeping ban announcements for multiple formats that are either like really impactful, or we see like ban announcements across the board that are really conservative. This one, Pioneer, maybe banning Gigantha was a little aggressive. The Legacy one, it felt really conservative. Would have loved to see something come off the ban list. Would have loved to see another 1 or 2 cards go on. Just kind of reset the format rather than potentially raising another boogeyman. And then Modern was it feels like such a big overhaul. Just like
it's huge,
3 big card bans, and then also 4 massive unbannings. Well, 3 massive unbannings, and also we'll see if the Splinter Twin Copers are real. And man, once again, I just gotta say it again. Companion, what a messed up mechanic. I can't wait to see which companion gets banned next.
I hope they throw them all in a fire. In
before, like, Karuga decks somehow get so good that they have to ban Karuga and Pioneer or whatever. And moving on to one other small piece of news we have here. Arena Championship 7 went off this last weekend. It was a pretty fun event. I got to watch it a wee little bit, less than I would have liked, but my weekends always do end up busier than I anticipate them to be. Kasuke Sato won with Gruul Aggro. It's kind of like a Manifold Mouse, Ember Heart Challenger, Heartfire Hero deck that casts a bunch of pump spells and other stuff, and their opponents just die.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, exactly. There were 3 Dimir aggro decks in the top 8 and 5 more in the top 16. It seemed to make up quite a bit of the field. They call them Dimir aggro. I would kind of call these decks like Enduring Curiosity tempo decks, because like a lot of them, just play like 8 to 10 to 12 1-drops that are evasive and bring something more along with them, like 4 spell Glass Siren, 1/1 flyer, make a map, just what we wanted. And then play 4 Enduring Curiosity, which is a creature that is a curiosity for all of your creatures. Whenever your creatures deal combat damage, you draw cards, and then when it dies, it comes back as an enchantment with the same effect, so it just never really goes away. I would call them tempo decks because they're just kind of about like getting like damage on the board and then keeping your tempo or your advantage up with like your card draw. And then they also play a decent amount of like removal spells and stuff. So Dimir Aggro seems really sick. It gets to play the like Ninjutsu Kaido. Apparently everyone loves that card. I can see why. It's a sick card. I was happy to get to watch it a little bit. Wish I could have gotten to play more. It seems like Standard is just in such an incredible spot right now. Happy to see it spotlighted a little bit over the weekend. I also saw a Blogatalk answer from Morrow where someone kind of asked them if they were happy with where Standard was, and they were pretty much just like, yeah, we've seen a massive resurgence of it. It's being played across more stores than it has been in a really long time. The feedback internally and externally is like massively positive. So
Brian Kibler just the other day tweeted that he thinks this is the best Standard that might have ever been.
Wow. That's some high praise. Thank you, Foundations. Thank you, Foundations.
Thank you, Fire Design.
No, we're out of the era of Fire Design, I think. I think we're out of the era of Fire Design. So if you have some time, go find those Arena Championship 7 VODs if you want to watch a bunch of really high-level players playing some excellent Standard with some excellent people in the booth. It's a good event, a good weekend. And I think that's kind of all we have for this episode, at least from the news perspective. No product watch, absolutely no product watch, no new products. We'll return to the product watch like next year, next calendar year, we'll get to the product watch. Don't worry about it.
With a vengeance.
With a vengeance. I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about. But for now, let's move to the other recurring segment of the show, the co-host notebook.
Co-host notebook.
That's new.
That's a little off key.
I can like comp some keyboard under that and use it for the rest of the show's history.
Excellent.
I'll get Lexi to do it. Welcome to the co-host notebook, the part of the show where the co-host talks about whatever they want to. Dan, on this remarkably short episode so far, what do you have written down in your co-host notebook?
Oh, yeah, we're killing it. We're at like a half-hour runtime right now. This is excellent.
I think it's shorter than that. I pressed the record button real early when we were yapping.
Let's see. I have not been up to a whole lot that's been all that crazy or special. I have been delving deep into my Nintendo library, playing a lot of Switch, playing a lot of GameCube. You're gonna call me crazy, Callahan, last name, but it's on the thing, Callahan Jones. Okay, yeah.
It doesn't go on the show.
It's on the logo. It says with Cal Jones, right?
You're right.
Okay.
No, I'm so known TM to the world. It's one of the great content creator mistakes that I've made.
I don't know your middle name, so you're good there.
There's no mystery.
I hate that if you Google my first and last name, it will show you pictures of me that I posted on Twitter.
Anonymous.
Yeah. Yeah, my legal first and last name. You're going to call me a fool, but I just discovered that there are Pokemon games, like Pokemon RPGs on GameCube. I didn't know that. I discovered that last night, and I have been doing research ever since.
Yeah, like Pokemon XD, Gale of Darkness,
and what? Not Coliseum?
Coliseum is the
Coliseum,
other one.
right. I was thinking, I can't remember what the N64 version is.
Oh, yeah, that's Stadium.
Stadium, right? Yeah. So yes, I have been watching many playthroughs and trying to decide whether or not I want to buy these incredibly expensive GameCube games.
They were pricey when I bought them, and they have like doubled in price since then. It's truly insane. It's nuts. It's nuts. And they're like fine games. They're like fun Pokemon games, but there's a reason why people have kind of always been clamoring for like a quote unquote real Pokemon RPG experience. Cause like XD gets close, Coliseum gets kind of close, but they still kind of leave something on the table for me.
That's what it kind of seemed like in watching like other people play them and watching playthroughs, etc. That like it seems like an interesting concept. These are interesting worlds, interesting plot that they have set up for the characters, but it's not quite what I would have wanted for an RPG gaming experience. Although I have not played Pokemon since literally second gen on the Game Boy, so I am so unfamiliar with the wider catalog of Pokemon. I'm just coming back to it now. So I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to get into like Scarlet or Arceus Legends on the Switch, and I'm leaning more towards Scarlet because I think that's more of like a traditional sort of Pokemon experience from what I gather.
Yes, it is. It's a pretty normal one. It's a pretty normal Pokemon experience. It's just kind of, it's fine. It's the one Pokemon game in a very long time that I haven't finished, but it's mainly the part of my life I was in when I was trying to play that game. It's just way too busy.
We'll talk about it after the show if you want.
Well, you see, that was one of the first Pokemon like mainline entries that came out when I was a adult with a full-time job and a house and a wife.
No, okay, no longer want to talk about it then. Other than that, hanging out in the basement a lot, listening to a lot of records. I finally got my copy of Vince Guaraldi Trio's Charlie Brown Christmas, as I've been meaning to do.
Banger.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Talk about 10 of 10 albums as we have been. That is certainly among the lists. Just been enjoying slowing down a little bit, over the past few weeks. I have not done any streaming this month, which has kind of been a blessing. And, it's like good to take a break, but also like it's got me excited to come back next month and do some more streaming
definitely.
And get back to playing some more Magic.
You gotta take a break sometimes, you know? Or else...
Well, I wish I was not like playing a bunch of Magic during my break from playing Magic, but I have
because it's Vintage Cube season.
I've been playing so much of the No Holds Barred Vintage Cube because it's so fun. Oh my God, putting Thoracle and Demonic Consultation on the stack. If you have fun doing it in real life, you just wait until you do it on Magic Online.
I'll have to give that a look.
Hey, you know what? Play for Magic Online. They're doing their yearly like all access thing again, where it's like $25. You get access to like all of the Magic cards for a period of, I want to say 15 days, something like that.
All Magic cards except for the Warhammer 40K cards.
Yes. I know the licensing on those is weird, and
for the 40K cards. Yep.
You can't play those, and maybe like the Fallout ones too, or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it is.
I don't even know if the Fallout ones are on the platform. Are they? Did they finally come over?
They are. I think I have seen some people play with them.
Pog?
Yes.
Neat.
But yeah, super cool deal if you're interested in getting into MTGO. It is a fun place to play Eternal formats like Legacy and Vintage.
And if you're someone who's interested in cubing, they're running like the basically get 10% off if you buy a pack of 3 entries deal right now, I believe.
Yep.
So if you're looking to do some vintage cubing, now's the time too.
Yeah, I will certainly be doing a ton of that over the holidays.
Well, Dan, I think that's all we got for this episode. So, do you have anything else you would like to leave our listeners with before we go?
No, all the usual. Follow me on the socials. Follow me on YouTube, Twitch. Be good to yourselves. Be good to your neighbors.
Thank you so much for listening. We have a great episode coming up. See you there.
Bye-bye. We have a great episode coming up, or did you mean to say interview?
We have a great interview coming up.
Bye-bye.
Hey there. Thanks for listening to this podcast episode. If you want to help support the podcast, check out our Patreon. You'll get a sticker in the mail and access to our Patreon exclusive content, which I'm always cooking up more of every day. We've got bonus questions with guests, exclusive interviews, me thought dumping about magic in my life. What else could you want? Plus, when we read letters to the editors, those sent through Patreon DMs or the Discord get first priority. Yep, we have a Discord that you'll be thrown into. Come talk to me about professional wrestling. Anyways, without any further ado, let's get back into this episode. In Ohio, it gets cold. It's not like too cold for me. It's been like 15 degrees the last couple days, which for the United States is cold, but yeah. I could not do.
No, don't come to Canada.
I could not do Manitoba.
No. I think a lot of people can't. It's not worth it.
No.
You know?
And welcome back. I am joined by the wonderful Maddy, better known as Clover Altars, perhaps better known as Clover, perhaps better known as Spike Feeder Merchant. What's up, Maddy? Thank you for joining me here on the Herald's Horn.
How are you? Thank you for that.
I was like, oh no, I said better known as. Where do I go? Where do I go?
No, that was good. I'm forever going to be known as the Spike Feeder Merchant. That's me.
Spike Feeder Merchant. Well,
thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me, Maddy. Today, I brought you on. Well, number one, because I think you're great. Number two, I think you occupy a fairly unique space in the Magic the Gathering community. You know, there are a lot of people out there who do altars. You do a lot of altars. You do a lot of altering work, a lot of alteration, but you're also a product designer. You've designed a lot of really cool Magic the Gathering products for the Spikes, and I assume for other things as well. But then you also play on a YouTube channel, and you kind of do it all. So I kind of wanted to have you on and pick your brain about a ton of different stuff today.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds great. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I kind of have my hands in a lot of different things, and sometimes when I think about it, I'm like, I don't know how I got here, but how do you mean? I like where we're going. So
that's what I'm trying to unpack, how you got here. Well, what came first of all of these things? Altering, designing products, working with people to get the products made, being one of the Spike feeders. What came first? What happened?
How did we get here? The altering came first.
Okay.
That was kind of a weird thing. I used to spend a lot of time on Reddit, of course, as people do, as one does. I was going to university at the same time that this kind of all transpired. So I did a degree in fine arts. And I'm browsing Reddit one day and I see a Clug altar come up. I'm like, wow, like this is kind of how a lot of people I think get started, is they see Clug for the first time. And I was like, I could do that. I maybe can't be as good as him, but I could do this.
Were you studying art at university?
I was, yeah. Okay. So I actually majored sort of in ceramics and mold making, which is not conducive to the altering process whatsoever. But yeah, so I saw this Clug. I'm like, I'm going to try this. Maybe it'll work out for me. So I think my first couple were probably just the worst things I've ever painted in my life. I was not a painter. And it just kind of went from there. I was really passionate about it. I started taking a couple local commissions. The first few that I did for friends, and they just did them for free. And yeah, it kind of just went from there.
And a lot of those, I think even if people are painters, I think altars are kind of different than just trying to sit down and work on a canvas, even in small. What kind of unique problems are there when you're talking about altering,
It's really hard to paint small. And it's hard to do it well. That was the problem I kind of had when I started out. I was like, I just want to paint these things so small and like color match properly, and I just can't do it. And so you kind of hit this wall, and it's like, hey, well, am I going to keep going or am I going to quit? Because I kind of suck at it. I'm like, no, like, I'll just keep going.
I'm going to persevere.
Persevere. I'm going to do it. So I'm going to make it work. And yeah, and then it eventually just kind of did. I started taking commissions locally, and then I made myself an Instagram page and started taking commissions on Instagram, and it super slowly just went from there. So I think I did that for maybe 5 or 6 years just while I was finishing my degree. Once I graduated, I was working at my game store, local game store part-time. I took a management position, and then that was kind of when I just started meeting the rest of the spike feeders.
Yeah.
So they used to just come in and, buy.
What store is that?
It's called Fusion Gaming.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the birthplace of the spike feeders.
The birthplace of the spike feeders, yeah. So I used to just keep the store open late, and like Jim, Elliot, and Bill would just come in and we would just hang out and jam EDH games.
Yeah.
So before it was kind of super popular, that's kind of what we did.
Wow, that's pretty fun.
It was fun. One day they just asked me to join the spike feeders, and this is kind of a story that's embedded in the spike feeders lore. Is Jim invited me to his house, and they sort of pitched this idea that I would design the logo for them because they were just using some crappy cactus clip art.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really terrible. And so for an hour and a half in his basement, he just showed me different Google images of like, oh, it can look like this.
I like this cactus.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that cactus.
And I think by the end of it, I was just so bewildered. I'm like, why would I want to do this? Why would I want to be part of this?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, you guys, like, you keep doing you, but I don't want to do this. So
actually,
I said no.
I'm not into it. Yep.
Yeah. And so maybe a month or two later, they probably hit 1,000 subscribers. I'm like, like, am I gonna miss something?
I don't know. Maybe I could get in on this.
Maybe I could. So, and they didn't want to pay me for the logo either. It was like, you can join us. You could just be part of our channel.
Part of the team. And
what do you mean?
Design the logo as part of the team.
Yeah. Like, this isn't anything.
Classic early YouTube energy.
Classic, right? But yeah, after a little bit, I was kind of like, hey, like, maybe I'm going to miss out on something by not doing this. So I changed my mind. And yeah, and then the rest was kind of history. So
the FOMO got you, the spike feeders FOMO.
It did, yeah.
And then you've been regretting that decision ever since.
100%, yeah. Like, why? Why did I do this?
What am I doing here?
Why am I here?
I don't even like playing Magic the Gathering.
So it was funny. Like, even when I joined them, I was never I didn't want to be on camera. I wanted nothing to do with filming. I'm like, I'll just be behind the scenes. I'll do stuff behind the scenes. And Jim just slowly like picks away at you until you're like, all right, okay, I'll be on the show. Yep. Yeah. And then that was kind of it. So
that's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. I like that a lot. Mm-hmm. And so you've been doing the altering for a long time. Eventually you joined the spike feeders. I want to talk a little bit more about the altering in a second here. And now you do quite a bit of product design. I know you've done like a bunch of different coins for the spikes, but also like Mudsta and Play to Win. And I know that like when we were trying to make some coins at Playing with Power, you helped us out with that. And you've made increasingly insane numbers of dice and increasingly insane number of dice and all that kind of stuff. And so that is, and then also the two major like spike feeders Kickstarters, right? For the spike feeder cereal and War of the Spike and that kind of stuff too. So all that stuff. Where does that come in? Because I feel like what brought you to doing that in the first place? Is that kind of just something that was like the once again, much like the logo, the spikes needed something done and you were in the best spot to figure it out, or? So I guess like once I did the logo for the spike feeders, it was very much like you can have whatever part in this channel you want. Ultimately what you're going to be doing, you're driving yourself forward, right? Nobody's going to tell you what to do. We're all equal partners. And so we have this Patreon page and we weren't really offering them very much. But I was like, these people, like, they support us. They do things for us every month. Like, maybe we can do something. Maybe we can offer them something more than what we have right now. And so I think the very first thing we did was dice. I had no idea where I was going to start. I didn't really know anything about manufacturing. I knew a little bit about distribution from managing a game store. And I asked a friend of mine who had done some custom dice before, like, hey, where did you do this? And he's like, oh, I just went through Chessex Custom Dice. So I reach out to Chessex and they're like, yeah, no problem. We can help you do this. And it was super straightforward. They walked me through the process.
And that was kind of the very first thing we did. And it was super well received. People really liked it. And so a lot of the work that I've chosen to do has just sort of been born from that. It's like, we really want to give back to people in the community that are supporting us. I mean, a little bit is, you know, we want to make money so we can do more cool projects and things like that. But we did our first Kickstarter when we hit 5,000 subscribers, I think.
Wow.
Which, like,
that's like what War in the
is
Spike
an eternity
was?
ago. I think so.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I'm like, we barely had anybody supporting us then. And we did this like massive project. I spend a lot of time on the Facebook group, the MTG Art Market. I'm very passionate about magic art, buying magic art.
Do you have some magic art?
I do.
Wow.
Mostly sketches and stuff, but I own an
sketches
original
are
Quentin
sick.
Hoover, which was my big dream. He's my favorite. And so everything I kind of learned about magic art and that community came from that Facebook group. Being part of that group, you can learn a little bit about, you know, who people's agents are and things like that. And so when we wanted to do this project, it was like, hey, like, I don't really know what I should offer the artists, like who I should talk to, how I can talk to them, like, where do I start with this? And so I reached out to, I think it's Mark Aronowitz. He's the agent for Dan Fraser. I'm like, hey, I want to do this project. Like, how should I get started? How can I, like, what can I expect to be paying? Help walk me through this process. And so he was super good about it. And it just really gave me the confidence to reach out to Victor and feel like, hey, like, we can do this, right? So yeah, definitely just winging it. I'd never done anything like that. I'd never run a Kickstarter before. But it was pretty successful. It was a really sweet piece of art. Very proud.
I am a very big fan. I think I ended up with like the very last Victor signed one, like long after the fact. That was like before my days of Spike Feeder's fandom was like when that Kickstarter happened, or I might have been a fan and been living off my $100 a month during, you know, college or whatever.
Yeah.
But now I'm very happy to own one. Yeah.
That's
so that
awesome.
that was like the first dive in, right?
Yeah, it was. It was the first big dive into doing any real amount of production of anything. I had never ordered playmats like that before. We had done a few like smaller runs with just our logo and things on it. But yeah, I'd never commissioned an artist. I had never done like wide distribution of playmats. So yeah, it was really cool. And honestly, it wasn't the biggest project. Like, it was very successful, but I didn't have to send out too many things. So, you know, that helped me gain the confidence that I needed to sort of keep going. And it helps that our members are very supportive.
Yes,
so they
definitely.
Just,
they get it, TM.
Yes,
and that makes it a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they don't always know necessarily like the best ways to help me or how to help with the project, but they definitely give me support when I need it.
And then, oh, excuse me. Woo, we both got.
Oh, sorry.
We're both coughing a little bit.
Why
right
I bring
now.
coffee with me too.
I know. I've got my water. I should be drinking it.
It's important to hydrate.
So how's the difference of, you know, so you've done like two pretty big Kickstarters, right? For the Spikes. There was the first one, War of the Spike, and then there was Spike Feeder cereal. I forget exactly what his name.
Spike Feeder cereal.
How much more of a lift was that one? Because I know you had the playmat, but you were a bit more ambitious with other stuff, and I assume it was more successful and all that kind of stuff. Was that kind of like a little more of like a, not a baptism by fire? Because I'm sure by then, you know, you'd been doing all of the product stuff for a while.
Yeah.
You'd been doing your own Etsy shop of like pins and tokens and all that kind of stuff on the side as well. I know at that point for a while. How did the two Kickstarters compare to each other?
I would say in terms of what we were offering in the second one, it was quite a bit bigger. In terms of the amount of marketing that I did, it was quite a bit bigger. Sales, I think, were pretty similar. So, which was okay. People, you know, obviously speak with their wallets, and there's going to be certain artists and certain styles that they like more than others. But I mean, in my eyes, they were both very successful projects.
Yes.
So yeah, I was very inspired by, like, I'm a 90s kid. So, you know, when you're a 90s kid, you get a lot of cool prizes in your cereal boxes, and they're like holographic stickers and tattoos were all the rage. So for me, I kind of wanted to lean into that nostalgia a little bit. So it was very much, yeah, like you get this playmat and it's themed on cereal, but you also get enamel pins that look like cereal marshmallows and holographic stickers and temporary tattoos and things like that. So it was just very fun. I had a lot of fun with the project. So
I really wish I had gotten one of those pins. I just got the old playmat, missed out on everything else.
Never lucky.
Got a wonderful portrait of the spikes, along with everything.
Nice. Yeah, a nice little thank you card.
Normally right there on my wall. I think it fell over.
That's so sad.
Oh wait, no. I think it's behind the secret lair thank you card.
Oh, you're hiding it.
I am.
Well, that's sad.
It's on me.
You guys should add him in the comments about how terrible it is. There you go.
There's my Spike family portrait.
Very nice. Yeah, you know what? It's I follow a lot of artists on Patreon, and I buy a lot of things from other little local artists, and that's something that I see other people do a lot. Is they just have these like little cards and things that they include. But it was very important for me to just make sure that we're thanking the people that are supporting us, right? And just stay very humbled by the whole process, because we can't do anything without a kitty. We can't do anything without the people that are supporting us and helping us make this happen, right? So
yeah, no, definitely. I think that's something that's like really hard for a lot of creators, especially in the magic space, to kind of figure out, because people are very happy, especially in the magic space, to support, and I think a lot of the times they aren't expecting something back per se, but if you can give them something back, then that's great. And I think that's nice. Something you've done a lot of figuring out of along the way. Maddy, you've been doing this for years now. Is the variety? Is that what's keeping you doing it? I'm sure it's all a lot of fun, but do you think if you were just doing altars, or if you were just kind of doing the pins and stickers and product design thing, or if you were just doing the 9 to 5, but also doing the spike feeders, on the side, do you think any one of those three things or whatever would get boring? But or are they all just all on your plate, full force, and you're flying by?
I mean, I think I wouldn't get bored, but something that a lot of artists seem to struggle with over time is just burnout. And I think if I only did one thing for like full time, if I tried to do it full time, because I don't think I could, I think I would just get very burned out. So it's really nice for me that I'm able to do so many different things and try so many different projects, because then when I start to get tired of one thing, I can just cycle over to the other thing for a little bit and then go to something else, right? So yeah, I don't think I could do it. I did alter part-time, like while I was working, and I really, really had this desire to make the leap to full-time. And then as soon as I started that, I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah, it's kind of a lot. Yeah,
it can be. It can be really daunting when you're all of a sudden self-employed and all of your income is entirely based on how much work you can produce. And so if what you're doing, and some people can do it, like Modfly is super great at it. He just alters full time. But, when you're so stressed about paying bills, and then it's like, okay, well, I have to sit here for 10 to 12 hours a day, or I can't pay my rent or whatever.
Well, it's especially, I think a lot of people maybe who aren't like creatives, TM or whatever, don't get that, like, you can't really force yourself to be creative more often than not. It's kind of a losing proposition.
It can
often,
be
most of the time.
For sure. Yeah. When you're trying to force yourself to have a good idea and you can't come up with a good idea, then you're just disappointing yourself because you're not living up to your own expectations, or you're making something that other people don't care so much about because you also don't actually care that much about it. You're just doing it out of necessity, right? And that stuff kind of shows, if you're making a product and you aren't excited about it, or it's kind of a lame product, like, nobody cares, right? There's so much other stuff in the market. People will just go buy those things, right? So.
Yeah, go buy those things, go consume that thing, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. I know. I am incidentally currently on a pivot to self-employment at this time in my life.
Luck.
And it is, thank you. And it is scary, because it is just like, I was talking to someone about that recently, because like, yeah, your income is kind of hard capped by how much work you want to do, or how much work you can do, or how much work is available to you and stuff. But even within that, especially when it comes to the more creative stuff, like I've been doing a little bit of script writing, or I'm making a little money off this show and this kind of stuff. And so much of the more creative work, you can like theoretically put like infinite amount of hours in it too, regardless of how much you're getting paid for it. You have to be your own boss and eventually say, okay, that is good enough. And I'm going to move on to the next thing and I'm going to get paid for doing that. And that's going to be good enough. And we're going to move on.
Yeah. It can be really tough to do that, right? And I will say, like, the leap to me becoming self-employed, I was not ready to make that leap at all. I don't think that I necessarily made that by choice, but my partner was offered a job. He was a director of events for Face-to-Face Games, which is in Montreal. So he received a promotion and it's like, okay, but we have to move there.
Yeah, move to Montreal.
So it's like, okay, I guess I'll quit my job and, we'll move to Montreal and I'll try and make it work, right? So
a little like baptism by fire, so to speak.
Yeah, I wasn't ready.
All right, I'm doing it.
I went kicking and screaming a little bit.
Leaving your beloved Manitoba.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to leave Winnipeg. It's so beautiful and amazing and I love it. No.
Get me out of here.
Right? But it was like, well, I mean, you don't know what's going to happen, right? I'm like kind of leaving the spike feeders without leaving
everything that you know. Yeah.
For sure. I'd never lived like outside my city before, so it was very scary. I had never tried to be fully self-employed, so that was very scary. The one piece of advice, I guess, that I have is, and I see a lot of people really fail with this, is like diversifying your income is so important. Having your hands in so many different things is super important. Canada is going through the middle of a mail strike right now, so we can't send anything in the mail.
I was going to say that I'm sure that makes your side gig of cute stickers and pins and that kind of stuff that you do kind of on your own much more difficult.
For sure. I mean, even altering, right? I can't order cards in the mail to work on. I can't send anything to anybody. So if I didn't have any other sources of income, it would be really easy for an artist, small business to just fail, right? And I mean, anything can happen, right? You can have a lull in the market for a little while, whatever. So yeah, like having so many other options where I can draw income from is super important.
Yep.
Yeah.
How many income streams do you have?
So many.
Thank
Not
goodness.
that many. I have an Etsy shop. I have a website. I have a Patreon page. I get paid from the spike feeders. And I do art conventions. So I do a lot of like Artist Alley kind of shows. So 5 sources of income currently. Yeah.
That's quite a few.
Plus, hopefully more soon. No, I will just. I'm like, it's like
just building
catching
them all up.
Pokemon. Wow. I'm just collecting them all. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's very interesting because especially within the Magic the Gathering space and related, because you do work in the Magic space and you do work outside of the Magic the Gathering space too. It feels like opportunities, if you're like available to catch an opportunity, it feels like opportunities are just kind of flying all over the place.
Sometimes. I think like sometimes an opportunity is not necessarily going to come to you, right? People aren't always just going to hand you this thing, but if it's there, you should do your best to be able to take that opportunity, right? It's really hard, I think, for people to get ahead in this space sometimes, especially because so many people are trying to be content creators, whatever. So you have to just go for it.
Who amongst us is not trying to be a content creator?
Right?
I'm trying to be an artiste.
An artiste.
No. I'm just out here having fun. That's my plan.
Good.
So how is specifically the altering? You've been doing it for years now, right? How does it?
I don't even know how many years it's been, but it's been at least 10, maybe 12.
And like, have you like done some comparison of like your alters now to your alters then?
Oh yeah, I still have.
Is your process wildly evolved, I assume? So
the process is similar. I've just gotten better at it. Right? It's just the more that you practice a skill, obviously, whatever, the internet will give you all of this like super motivational crap. Just practice for 1,000 hours and you'll be an expert.
No, but practice makes true, permanent, right? You fool.
Yes. So I've definitely just gotten better at it. I still have a couple of my first ones and I love to look back at them and be like, wow, like I thought I was amazing, but these are really terrible. Right? But it's good to see how you evolve over time. And then I can kind of like adapt and add new processes to altering, right? Like airbrushing or stuff like that, right? So
definitely. That's fun. And then, yeah, you've been doing a lot of, I have 1 or 2 of them now. You have like foiling, gold foil, gold overlay, or like, I think you called some like, oil slick and that kind of stuff. Where did that idea come from? Where's that coming from?
So from the crafty community.
Classic, yeah.
Of course. It's a process just with using a Cricut and adhesive vinyl and
And
I don't
then
know.
you have to like make the
it.
basal design or whatever first.
For sure,
and
yeah.
then,
You have to draw everything so that the computer and whatever knows where to cut it out and stuff. But yeah, I just saw something similar and I was like, oh, I wonder what this would look like on a Magic card. Like, why don't I try it, right? I got a bunch of whatever basic lands just sitting around. They're not worth anything. Like, I'll just try it out and see, right? It takes a couple hours of my time. And if the process works out, then great. And we can do something with it, right? So yeah, it's important. Like, you have to be able to experiment a little bit and just make yourself stand out from the other people in the community, right? I'm never going to be as good as Clug. I'm never going to airbrush as good as Modfly, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
unfortunately.
Yeah.
So,
so you gotta find other ways to differentiate yourself.
Different. Yeah.
And it mixes things up. If you've been like you kind of already said, if you've been doing the same thing for a while, it can get a little old.
Stale for sure.
So, why not mix it up? And it's less stale to paint an altar when every other altar you're doing some cool gold foil stuff or whatever too. Yeah,
exactly. And like, I don't know. I mean, you can mix the process a little bit. Like, you could do painting and foiling together, and it just makes things like a little bit extra special for people. So they get excited about it. So I get excited about it. And yeah. Man,
how's that postal strike been?
Awful.
I assume it's been disastrous.
It's really bad. So they've been striking for about a month, and I mean, I'm like totally on the side of the people striking, right? I totally get it. They've been trying to negotiate their contracts for like a year already. Mm-hmm. And so I think they finally said enough's enough. We're striking.
We're gonna tighten the nuts a little bit. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not so bad for people in other provinces, like, if you're in Toronto or Vancouver, Montreal, like these bigger hub cities, you have access to a lot of small postal services.
Mm-hmm. Like more privatized stuff.
Yeah. Winnipeg is not so lucky.
Yeah, because you're a bit in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Yep. So it's definitely been difficult. I've just had to close my shop. So I won't take any sales on Etsy. That's okay. I still take commissions and just let people know, like,
this will arrive whenever the postal strike ends. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're okay with that, awesome, right? I can pay my bills still. So yeah, they were very strategic choosing this, before Black Friday and then into Christmas. So yeah, but I think they're actually at the point now where government is legislating them back to work, because I think our parliament closes until March. They'll be reconvening in March. So they had to do something.
They had to do something.
But yeah, it's all just honestly stupid political decisions. So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Whatever. We just do the best we can, right?
And then unfortunately trickles down and affects people like you.
It does.
It's one of those things.
It's out of my hands. So
yeah, it's and also being pro labor is based. It's just unfortunate that it's such a integral part of labor that the people who are in charge of giving them more money can't get that figured out.
It's true, but I just try not to stress about it. I play a little extra Final Fantasy 14 now, so a
real Final Fantasy 14 gamer.
I love it. Yeah, it's the best.
Classic.
So, get a little bit stressed. It's like, it's okay. I'll just go raid for a bit and feel better about my life.
I've heard that there's a free trial that gets you all the way to. I forget the meme. I don't
it's changed a couple times.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah. Critically acclaimed MMORPG, whatever, with free trial up to some nonsense.
Level
probably up to
55
now.
And
it is fun though, but very attention draining. Like, it takes all of your time.
Yes, that's why I used to be like a really big League of Legends guy, and then I was a really big Destiny 2 guy, and both of those games are just like, they kind of have to define most of your free time, or else there's basically no point, actually.
Right. Yeah, that's really tough. I know a lot of people that have ruined their lives from like World of Warcraft and things like that, right? It's like, I'd love to play these games.
Have you considered ruining your life over Final Fantasy?
I have. When I moved to Montreal, I was like, I'm just going to take a little bit of a break. And I think I just played it like 8 hours a day for a month.
Yeah.
I'm like,
that's what I should be doing.
Stop,
I should be playing a cool video game for an hour a day. Yes. 8 hours a day.
8 hours a day.
Not an hour a day.
Now my full-time job is just being a gamer. I'll take it. I'm no longer a content creator. Although I did justify it to myself. Jan and I started streaming on Twitch back then. And we're like, we're just going to play MMOs. And I'm like,
and I'm working. I'm streaming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It totally makes sense. We're making so much money on Twitch that it makes sense for me to do this for 8 hours a day. So
yes, definitely. You might as well. What's the downside?
What's the worst that can happen? Exactly. Never
lot?
again, though.
A lot?
Yes.
A lot could go bad?
Now I manage my time a lot better, so that's good.
Oh, man. Well, we're unfortunately running out of time here a little bit.
That was fast. I feel like we didn't even talk about anything yet.
I know. Well,
Sorry.
what should we talk about, Maddie? What's the last thing we should talk about?
What should we talk about?
So, what do you want to talk about? What's your final? Not Final Fantasy 14.
My final thought for your listeners. Well, without plugging our stuff, I have a really cool project coming with GameGenic next year. I'm super excited about it. I don't know if I showed it to you when we were in Vegas, but I have been working so hard for this project. Yeah, I'm super excited about it. It's very sick. It's kind of, I feel like, what I've been working towards my entire time with the Spike Feeders is to release, like, we're going to have sleeves, we're going to have play mats, we're going to have maybe a deck box or two. So yeah, I kind of can't wait.
Yeah, it's kind of like the culmination. Like, you've been grinding this, doing it on your own and all that kind of stuff. You guys have been sponsored exclusively by GameGenic for a long time. And so it feels like the natural convergence of the two. You get to work with GameGenic to make some really cool stuff.
We're going to be trying to, or I'm going to be trying to get our products into United States, into various retail stores. I'm super excited about it. It's kind of this just big culmination of all this hard work I've been doing for the last 6 years for the channel. So it's going to be sweet. That's
very exciting for you. What's your favorite part of being a part of the Spike Feeders, Manny? Is it getting to do cool stuff like that?
Hanging out with my friends.
Yeah, hanging out in Spike Feeders HQ.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's never really felt like a lot of work, right? These people are just my friends. We've been friends for so long. And so it's just this really cool thing that we get to do together in this journey we go on together. And we have the best fans. And I always just want to be able to, like, reward our fans with cool things for supporting us. And yeah, it's just special, it feels like. So, yeah.
Yeah, well,
that's where we are.
I'm glad you enjoy it, Maddie.
Thanks.
You deserve it.
Thank you.
and I hope that sooner rather than later you can get out of your house now that it's no longer negative 30 degrees.
It's only minus 10, so
hey.
I can go outside today.
It's practically Canadian summer.
It is. I see people shop, like, you think this is a joke?
Yeah.
But people go out in their shorts and, like, no shirts, and they shovel. I'm like, you guys are crazy.
Yeah, that's a bit much for me.
Common.
It's a bit much for me, I gotta say. It gets down to, like, 10, not negative 10, 10 up here, and I'm like, you know, I'll stick inside for a little bit. It's a little too chilly out there.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm allergic to the cold weather, so I'll go outside again in the spring.
Even after all this time, even after living there for your entire life?
I hate it. I hate it so much. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Winter sports, they're trash. Like, skiing it's trash.
Winter sports are trash? Yeah. Do you even like
Do I like hockey? Well, from the inside I can watch it, so.
Okay. But you don't, like, play.
No. Am I even allowed to admit that I don't play hockey?
Well,
it's like a Canadian rite of passage.
I would assume that a lot of people don't play hockey in Canada, even.
If anybody important is listening, I do play hockey.
I've done my Canadian duty.
Yes. I know how to hold a hockey stick. I'm just kidding. I played hockey when I was a kid, but, like...
Okay, yeah. As I assume everyone in Canada does.
Canadian children do.
It was also shockingly popular in Michigan, where I grew up, but I guess Michigan is about as close to... is one of, like, the 3 states that are about as close to Canadian culture as I think they get.
Yeah, it's basically Canadian at that point.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, you can cross a bridge in Michigan and suddenly be in a major Canadian city.
There you go.
I forget which one.
I don't know either.
Well,
Mississauga, maybe?
Maybe. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Herald's Horn. Is there anything else you would like to leave our listeners with before we go?
What do I want to leave you guys with? Thank you for coming and listening to this.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening. It was really fun. I guess depending when you listen to this, I hope you have a nice Christmas. If you celebrate Christmas. Be good.
Be good. Be good. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening. If you have feedback, would like to sponsor us, or would like to submit something to the Letters to the Editor segment, email me at editorial@heraldshorn.com. The show is hosted, produced, and edited by me, Cal Jones. The rest of the team is, of course, our co-hosts, Emma Partlow, Dan, better known as Moderately Anonymous MTG, and Lexi, better known as Black Girl Mage. We're having so much fun making this show. I hope you're enjoying listening to it. We'll see you next week.
You stopped smiling when you decided the take was over, and it was such an abrupt emotional turn on your face.
Oh, it's telling me to reload the page. Okay.